So, oh my goodness, but didn't we really enjoy that? I just really thought that was excellent. Thank you so much, Kelly. And now we're going to have the wonderful Frances Kennedy from downtown Listowel. So let me tell you a little bit about Frances. She's claimed by the Cork contingent, and she's claimed by the Kerry contingent, and she describes herself as a Cork woman married to a Kerry man. But even though she lives in Listowel now, she points out to all and sundry that she is a Cork woman. She's the youngest of a family of 11. Songs and stories were always part of her home life. Neighbours called at night and her father would fill them up with all sorts of stories. Her mother was a great believer in ghosts and would tell of strange lights seen and things going bump in the night. So it was easy for Frances to fall into the singing and into the telling of the odd story. But it was in Listowel that Frances first started singing in public, and everyone in Kerry had a story to tell, so she just joined in. It was in Listowel, of course, that Frances met the famous and loved John B. Keane. He was one of her idols and one of mine too, and there was many great singing nights in that pub. John B. encouraged Frances to tell a recitation or a yarn, and before she knew it, she was entertaining often, and I have followed her for many's a year. So without further ado now, I'm going to ask Frances to unmute. So come in, Frances, are you there? There she is. So away with you, Frances. Oh, Frances, you're unmute. You're not unmuted yet. So can you just, there you go.
Are we in business again? Big shout out of a warm welcomes, Kate Míle to all our friends from Newfoundland and Labrador, and of course our Cork contingent, and of course all our Kerry crowd. And tis great to have an international storytelling festival, and it's wonderful to be able to meet up, if it is in Zoom, but sure, when could all of us meet up in person? Where the distance between us is so wide. So I'd like to tell you a bit of a story tonight. I suppose when I came to Listowel first in the 80s, this is a story I used to tell a lot. And actually, Maria said there about John B. Keane, our great playwright and author. And John B. would always say to me, tell the one about the men from Knocknagoshire. And you see, John B.'s wife, Mary, so, do you know the way stories kind of come to you at different times of your life, and then you kind of move on to other stories and you forget the old stories. And the bones of this story was written originally by John Carrick, the Lord Merson John. John's father was a Kerryman, but John lived in West Limerick. Creeves. There was a big family of them there. There was 16 in the family. And they were a family that are steeped in music, song, dance, and just merrymaking in general. And they lift your spirits whenever you see them. So 'tis no wonder John's mind could come up with the bones of this. Right. I wonder, would any of you out there tonight know where Knocknagoshire is? Well, for those of you that don't know, Knocknagoshire is a little village in North Kerry. It's so small that they nearly takes it in when it rains. I'm telling you, it's so out of the way that if a woman was to have a baby, she'd want to give the midwife about 10 months' notice. Here it is like love, hard to find it and harder to get out of it. Well, this man from Knocknagoshire one time, he won a few pub in the I think it was the sweepstakes at the time. Yet I'm going back to the 70s. And he won a few bob. And now that he had not much, but he had a small bit of money at his discretion, he wanted to travel out. A man that had never gone anywhere in his life because sure, he couldn't afford to. Sure, he lived there in Knocknagoshel, and sure, his land wouldn't be the best, like, you know, bog and water. And I suppose he was talking one time about selling a field, and they said to him, are you going to sell it by the acre or by the gallon? You see, it was so wet and boggy that there wouldn't be much of an income derived off of it. Well, my man from Knocknagoshel, now he had the money, he was going to Dublin. And what he wanted to do in Dublin, our capital city, what took him to Dublin was, like all Kerry people, and Cork people got a good run of it too, to bring home the All-Ireland football title. To carry the kingdom. The boys were playing the football at the time. And football in Kerry now, it is like a religion, so it is. And Kerry has won more All-Irelands than all the other counties nearly put together. But anyway, my man from Knocknagoshel, he pushed his few gibbles of clothes into a message bag, and she made off down for Tralee Station. And there he was striding up Tralee Station with two big suede boots on him, one swaying this way and the other one swaying that way. And he got his ticket and he got on the train. Well, he was looking forward to great conversation altogether. Well, this man sat in opposite him in the carriage, a fine, tasty kind of a man, a lovely collar and tie and a bit of a briefcase with him, you know. And my man from Knocknagoshel said, how are you doing? He said, how's things with you? Very weathery. And the man just looked at him, a bit of a sneer on him. And my boy from Knocknagoshel started thinking, maybe he was a true Gaelic speaker, you know, from west of Dingle, that he spoke the native tongue and he didn't understand what he was saying. So my boy from Knocknagoshel said, "Connors a Tato, how are you doing?" Well, my man with the briefcase, he looked at my boy and he steen. And he said, "I wouldn't talk to the likes of you," he said. "A countryman like you," he said. "I wouldn't talk to you," he said. "I am an IT executive," he said, "from Dublin." So the men from Knocknagoshel, "Carry on if that's the way you want it. Carry on," says he. And the train pulled out and was going chugga, chugga, chugga. And my boy was never on a train before. He was distracted. He was looking out the window, and when they got on more upland, God, the fine land he was looking at, rolling green hills and valleys, fields and acres of corn and barley and everything. And my man from Knocknagoshel was delighted with himself. And up he goes anyway, and the train was pulling through the Curragh of Kildare. And the Curragh of Kildare now, for those of you that may not know, the Curragh of Kildare is synonymous with horse breeding. They're the finest horses you could ever think of up there, so they have. Should they breed racing horses for all over the world? Well, just as they were pulling into the station, well, whatever, didn't this cut jackass stick his head out over the bar, and he opened his mouth back and he started braying. Hey! Well, my man from Dublin, never having seen a jackass before, he said to my man from Knocknagoshel, he said, "Excuse me," he said, "sir," he said, "would you mind telling me," he said, "what sort of an animal that is?" And my man from Knocknagoshel looked out at the cut jackass, and he looked back at your man, and he said, "Well," he said, "judging now," he said, "by the length of his ears and the size of his mouth, I'd say he's an IT executive from Dublin." Well, the train rallied John anyway, and they arrived in Dublin before he knew it. And sure, he was talking to different people, and didn't he find his way to the digs, and he went in and he had a bite to eat and he scrubbed and cleaned himself. God, he looked well. The green and gold, the Kerry colours on him. 'Twas paper caps that were going in those days. Green and gold as well. He creamed his hair. He shone his shoes. He licked the eyebrows. He was looking good. Put on his green and gold cap and out he goes for diversion. 'Twas the night before the All-Ireland final. And my boy was the Kerry man on the town above in Dublin. Well, he was going down and he met a few Dublin fellas and he said to him, what did you hear for a bit of entertainment? And the boy said, oh, you're up from Kerry. Whatever you do, go to see a disco. A disco, says my boy from Knocknagoshel. We've none of him down nowhere. What sort of a thing is that? Oh, they said 'twill be a cultural experience for you. You have to go for one. Well, down my boy went the street and he was looking at all these lights because there was only about the 2 lights in the village of Knocknagoshel. Well, there was lights and lights and lights and big huge shop windows and everything. And the next thing he saw this big neon sign. Disco on here tonight. Well, my man from Knocknagoshel, he straightened himself up. He said, this is it. He said, oh, he said, disco, here I come. Well, over he goes. And the next thing he read the big sign. Disco on here to admission, £5. £5 is what man from Knocknagoshel. Sure, that's the price of a bull calf at home. And she said, my God, he said, sure, it would be all my DDI money gone. You know what DDI money is, don't you? Discretionary, disposable income. Sure, we're all kind of shocked at it at the moment. Well, of course, my boy from Knocknagoshel, he was, I suppose, like Ireland, you could say he was half broke. Well, he asked a few lads anyway. He said, £5 going to the disco. Is there any way I could go in a bit cheaper? They said, Jackass, man, they said, can't you walk in backwards and they'll think you're coming out? Well, says my boy, that's what I do. So he backed up to the door and he started backing in. Good night, no, sir. Good night, no, sir, he said to the 2 bouncers. And before he knew it, he had backed into the hall where the disco was on. Well, lads, 'twas all in the world now. I could saw at home when there'd be dazzling rabbits. The lights were flashing. And he made his way through the fog to the bar. I suppose it was the smell of the drink. Well, he asked for a pint bottle of stout, porter like he was used at home, but for extent there was no drinks like that. And he saw them all coming up, gin and tonics and Bacardi and coke and things like that. Sure, my boy didn't know what to do, but after a while anyway, he steadied himself. And didn't you see the dance floor? And all the women in the out dancing. Well, it nearly took the eyes out of my boy from Knocknagoshel. And you know, didn't he rise up a bit of courage in him? And out she goes and he asks this lady, will you dance? She rose no objection. So the 2 of them out, they go on the floor and they were jigging around the place. Oh, and she was, you know, really getting into the groove, she said. Hey man, she said. Hey man, she said. Do you dig the beat? She said. Do you dig the groove? She said. Come on, man, she said. Get into the rhythm, man. When my boy from Knocknagoshel was shaking himself and he was sure, but she was going like making she was there. Come on, man, you dig the beat, man. And after the music stopped, cute enough, he says to her, would you like a mineral? Oh, she said, I thought you'd never ask. Up they go to the bar. And he asked her what would she like to have. Oh, she said, I'll have a double Jimmy and Tommy, please. Well, he said, right, so, he said, and I'll have one of them McCafferty and Cokes. Well, after the few Jimmy and Tommies, and she said she'd want more, another one, another two back down in her, out on the floor they'd go again. And the eyesight was getting better by him now. He could see she was wearing a miniskirt, to say, and a short one at that. Oh my, and she was jumping up into the air, and she was really going for leather altogether. And he could see she was experienced with men, because she wore black garters in memory of those that went beyond. And she said, hey man, come on man. She said, hey man, do you dig the beat, man? And he was trying to make a bit of conversation. And he said, do you dance here often? Oh no, she said, sometimes I dance over there. Come on, man. She said, come on, man. Do you dig the beat, man? Do you dig the beat? He said, for God's sake, will you shut up about digging beat? He said, I dig no beat in Knocknagoshire. I'm a dairy farmer. Well, up they go for another few drinks anyway. And you know, they were getting kind of cozy all together. And she said, hey man, we can't be wasting time after another few drinks gone down on her. Hey man, she said, come on man, you have to go with the music, man. Well, out they go on the floor again. And it did. My man from Knocknagoshire, he was drowned from top to toe. The old cap had disintegrated on top of his head. The green of the cap started to flow down his face, into his festy vest, into house or father and out below. What a sight he looked. And up to the bar for another few drinks out on the floor. Well, my man from Knocknagoshire wasn't slow. He said he'd better put the hard word on her. Any chance of the convey. She rose no objection. So she said, I'll just get my cardigan. Well, she went off, she got her cardigan, she came back, she draped the cardigan over her shoulder, and she said, she said, 'tis awful hot tonight. He said, 'tis no bloody wonder you're hot, he said, and you having the price of the best part of the 2 trailers of my turf drank tonight. Well, that's my story for you lads, and 'tis all pure true.
Frances, you never disappoint. I actually have a pain in my now. Oh, very good, very good. Absolutely excellent. Thank you very much.
No.
So